All right, thanks for joining us today. Talking about the Dragnet, so stay tuned.
Lord, reign in me, reign in your power, over all my dreams, in my darkest hour. You are the Lord of all I am.
This is the Unscripted Podcast. If you have ever toted a concealed firearm to church, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button.
Hey, can you remind me to do that after we get out of here?
To what?
Hit the like and subscribe button.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about toting a pistol. I was about to say, you doing that all the time. And what's pretty cool is like you got bullets on your shirt today, and I got bullets on my hat.
There you go.
Yeah.
What do you want me to change hats?
Huh?
You want to change hats? I wear your hat.
I don't care.
I mean, I'll look all cool then.
I want you to I thought you meant like and then change shirts too.
No, it's just weird. Now you're being weird about it.
Yeah, that would have been really weird.
We're not that kind of show.
Yeah. Hey Ben, will you hit my camera? We got Ben with us today. Yeah, so see my American flag here is made out of bullets. Yeah.
Ben, you want to tell them about Ben?
Yeah. So Ben's here. Ben Rickman, the man. And he's not a has-been. He is Ben.
Now Ben.
That's right.
He's the now Ben.
Yeah, Ben is the man. And he's here. He's our new connections evangelist at KW. And he's also our new producer for the Unscripted Podcast.
Man, he hit the ground running too, didn't he?
That's right. Dude's been working. He's worked every single night this week.
He's staying in our guest apartment at our house.
Mm-hmm.
And my blink cameras go live at a certain time.
Yeah, right. Certain time when. Yeah, that's right.
So I noticed,
but the bullets are always in the gun.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They're already. It's funny that the cameras go armed, right?
Mm-hmm,
Well, those are already always armed. But I see him coming home after the cameras get armed at nighttime.
Right.
So I know that he's been busy.
Yep. Well, yeah. So Ben, he's did a couple things this week. First of all, he hurt me last night.
He hurt you?
Yeah, so we're playing with college students, and I realized that I'm not really young anymore. And so we're after church last night, we were playing this game called Aliens versus Predators. And so just stick around and we'll teach y'all. But so we got these college students, and so we're going through the building. Well, Ben is the alien, and I was one of the little predators. And so the alien hides an egg, and then everybody else is trying to work together. It's kind of a hide and seek thing, and then to find it, Ben, it was just me and Brad Anderson were left, and Ben was the guy in hide and seek who goes to tag.
Y'all hiding around the church building?
Yeah, we're hiding around, but we're sneaking trying to find the thing that he's hid.
Okay,
and then if he tags us, then we're out. And so it was me versus Ben down the hallway, and so I fortunately had like a 40-yard head start. Mm-hmm. But when I took off running, I went out the door and, anyways, hit the little ditch there between the building and the HVAC units outside.
Oh, right here?
Yeah, the little ditch.
Right outside my door?
Yeah, no, but it was the other one. I was coming toward your door. Oh, yeah. So I come out and I hit the little mud in the ditch, and anyways, I threw my calf out of place.
Oh, baby. Is
yeah,
that why you're
so
limping this
I either
morning?
pulled it, strained it, or smoked it. I don't know what, but it hurt bad.
Well, I was down here. Joe and I were meeting with.
I'm just glad Ben didn't keep running.
Joe and I were having just a conversation with one of our young guys last night down here, and I mean, it sounded like World War III going into the church building. I mean, they're banging into the walls. It's like a WWF going on in there.
Yeah.
And
when you got somebody fast like Ben Rickman chasing you, buddy, you got to get this thing moving.
Right. Well, the problem, it didn't sound like it was moving. The problem sounded like stopping, because a couple times y'all were rattling the pictures off the wall in Ben's office down there.
All right, Chris, the elders might watch this, so let's be quiet.
I'm sorry.
We weren't that rough on the building.
No, we were not. I was just playing.
But hey, we're using our building to glorify God. And so we got an awesome college group, and Ben's a great part of that. He's really helping out with our social media platforms, with our Instagram.
So what have you been up to this week then? I mean, like, isn't this Rush? What do you call it?
This is Blitz week, baby.
Yeah.
Yep. So every night this week we've had something going on with our student center, and the first night we had just our regular student supper with a devotional and singing, and Brad brought our message, and
Just like normal.
Yeah, normal. And then Tuesday night we had a selfie scavenger hunt with tacos, and then they had
shouldn't there be a comma? Taco
like... Tuesday, then scavenger hunt.
Okay.
And then
they came back.
They came back and got snow cones afterwards. And then last night we had donuts for them and played Aliens versus Predators. Tonight's a game night at the Student Center, and then Friday night we're ending the week with a cookout. So.
All right. What time is that?
6:30.
All right.
Come on. You come on tonight too?
I can't. I got something.
Well, come on. Well, just make excuses. Go ahead.
I'd like to say that I'm making excuses, but I got something else on my plate.
Sure. It's probably like teaching the Bible to somebody, I'm sure.
Well, I happen to have video evidence of something else that you've been doing this.
All right, yeah. Cut scene. No, so I was testing out our audio to see what it's like if you actually did sing on it, and then syncing like 4 different audios put on one video. I was trying it.
Well, you got
no
one.
Good.
You got one.
Yeah, that's right. That's fine. Ben, trust me, there are plenty of bloopers with Chris on them. Plenty. I've been saving up. So I'm glad you opened that door.
Well, I was
so glad.
Ben the hotkeys, and I was like, "Look at here, Ben. Look what we found."
Fine. Ben, me and you will have a meeting soon before next week's podcast. Everybody, make sure you're here.
Hey, Ben, just remember whose house you're staying in.
Oh yeah, you won't be here next week, will you?
Right. That's right.
That's fine. We'll have an unscripted roast. All right, glad you're here.
Roast, man, that's a good thing to start it out with, because when I think about roast, I think about food.
I'm telling you, baby. So we're in Matthew 13. Sorry for listening to all our annex today, and so we're just we're talking about parables, and today we're talking about the Dragnet.
Yeah, the Dragnet, and this is this is such a really
amazing parable.
Amazing parable, but. You kind of say that, and it's like, which one is not one of them?
Exactly.
We dig into these, but this is one that I really like.
I know Chris has been trying to do this for like 3 weeks on me.
Well, Bob, I didn't. You have more confidence.
He's like, let's do the Dragnet.
Well, you have more confidence in these one verse parables than I do. Well, I know, but I just been really wanting to get to this one. As a matter of fact, that's what I did Monday. Was I fished for 4 hours, and it was 105 degrees, and I got a bite.
Where'd you go?
Down to we went down. One of our elders wanted to. He had heard about this place down there that was going to have this honey hole in it. We went down there and fished for 4 hours, and it was fun. Great company, great chat. That's what's awesome about hanging out with our shepherds, is all the conversations we get to have. But we get down there to fish, and we ride around and try to find this spot, and the spot was the only place that I got a bite, and he had one chase his, and I got one that ate a cricket off my hook, and that was the end of it. And so, this was, maybe it was providential that we're supposed to do the one on the Dragnet today. So in Matthew 13, Jesus is working through this parable of the Dragnet, and we're working through these parables that Jesus has, and then in Matthew 13, you're going to see here that he picks up with verse number 47, and he says, "Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a dragnet that was cast into the sea, and gathered some of every kind, which when it was full, they drew to the shore. They sat down and gathered the good into vessels, but threw the bad away. So it will be at the end of the age, the angels will come forth, separate the wicked from among the just, and cast them into the furnace of fire. There will be wailing and gnashing of teeth."
Boom, he laid the hammer down.
Yeah. And like last night, we've been talking about money in the assembly, and I'll hear people say sometimes things like, Jesus talked about hell more than he talked about heaven, or he talked about, I think it's 11 of 39 parables that Jesus talks about
finances.
Mm-hmm. Well, I started looking into that. If we want to use that as a weight, right, that it's its importance because of how many times it's mentioned. Well, he mentions, I think I counted 18 of 39 parables that he talks about food. So does that mean we need to talk about food more than money?
Yeah,
it's so we can't use that as a measuring stick in the sense of, but this is an interesting parable that Jesus uses with the idea of this dragnet.
Yeah. So what stands out to you?
Well, what I like about it is that like Monday, I was talking about us fishing, right? We went down there and we fished, and man, Brian has got this. I mean, you know, I'm just not a fancy fisherman like this, but he's got this fish finder that's like you're looking at a Google Maps topo image. I mean, it's just, you can see all the terrain, you can see tires, you can see, you know, whatever's underneath there. Well, you know, we saw several schools of fish, and Brian said, well, there's a school over there, but I know that's not what we're looking for, so we're not going to fish there. So we didn't fish there. We were just fishing for crappie. That's all we were looking for. So we're looking for crappie beds. Yeah. We're looking for these little crappie that we could catch. So, you know, there wasn't what we were after. But what I think is an awesome thing that stands out to me here is that they're using a drag net. And they're not looking for a specific bait. They're trying to catch whatever they can.
Everything
that can get in that net.
The drag net doesn't discriminate.
And that's the kicker. The drag net doesn't discriminate. And so they're going to throw this thing out there, and they're going to drag in, and whatever comes in, if it's something they don't need, they're throwing away.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing, is it gathers some of every kind. And so when you put this parable together, I mean, he's talking about the end of time, that the Lord, he's going to gather everybody. Every knee's going to bow. Every tongue's going to confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. And so you can either confess it now or you can confess it later. But every single one of us we're getting dragged in by this net. We're all going to stand before the judgment seat of God. And so we're being dragged in. And so this drag net, it's pretty neat how these, you know, how civilization has did this for years and years, in that, you know, you take a boat out and you start and you pull the net out so far, and then you start pulling it back in a horseshoe back around to the other side of the shore, and then you just start dragging it in.
Yeah, and that way you get everything.
That's right. And
the idea to me that, you know, that he's going to liken the kingdom of heaven to that way is so many multifaceted things. You know, like the idea that I'm going to go just as far as I can reach. You know, I'm going to go just as long as my net will carry me. Because if I don't go to the end of my net, I'm not reaching my net's full potential. I can't just go out there halfway and come back. I've got to go all the way around in order for my net to work. And so, you know, my life as a Christian, I have got to drag that net just as far as I can stretch it. And number two, I've got to keep my net in good shape. I mean, you know, you always see these fishermen depicted on these old like ancient time shows and stuff like that. When they come into shore, what's the first thing you see them doing? Mending their nets, making sure their nets are in good shape. So I got to keep my net that I'm catching fish with in good shape. And then, you know, I cannot discriminate. I mean, I have just got to catch whatever I can. I can't throw my net out there and say with my net I'm only going to catch crappie. I don't get to make that decision. It's not like I can, even with my.
For some of you that don't know, that's crappie as well. Some people call them crappie.
Who calls them that?
People, rednecks, country people.
Well, I heard them call it crappie.
Oh yeah, it's fine.
What do y'all call them?
I'm just translating crappie.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, all our Virginia people are going to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, the Tennessee people didn't, so I'm letting them know. But yeah, so it's a so yeah. Crappie, it's just a tomato, but at the same time, that you're exactly right. Like, you can't just, my dad, he talked about going fishing, and he's not a fisherman, but he rode out in a boat with a guy, remember the church one time, and there's like all these fish jumping, and it was just a whole school of fish that were jumping on top of the water, and the guy who's fishing with said, no, we don't want those fish. And I don't know what it was. Dad said the guy told him it was carp. I don't know. I don't know if carp jump that much.
I've never seen them jump.
I've never seen them jump either, but
they're big too.
Yeah, but
big fish jumping.
That's right. And Dad's like, hey, I just want to go catch something, you know. And he's like, we fished all night and caught no fish. And this is but you know, this drag net, it's really cool. I like how that you were putting that in, that we need to be gathering people, you know, for the Lord as well, and that's the whole thing, is like. That's one thing that we should always be doing, especially as church leaders, is looking at decreasing our holes in our net.
Yes. Not
letting people get by, not letting people get through.
That's
I remember being in a leadership meeting one time, and I was a young deacon, and these these guys were saying, our eldership were saying, hey, there's not going to be one sheep that goes down without a fight. And man, I still get chills. I get fired up about it. But that's the whole thing, is like we're missing people in our holes in our net. And you and I both know, as being, on a leadership team, in that there's people that slip by. There's people that slip through, and it's never intentional. But
but doggone, it's hard.
It is hard, and so you always want to do those things, and it's always having those checks and balances. But one thing I love too, and good and well, that there's some people, that help us to keep those holes tight in the net in the church. And I think about Nehemiah when they were rebuilding the wall, and how quick they were able to do that. But Nehemiah, he said, hey, if there was these big holes in the wall, and he said, whenever there's problems there, you blow the trumpet.
Right.
We'll come and we'll fight for you there.
That's right. Blow the horn.
That's right. And so we need trumpet blowers in the church.
Not whistleblowers.
Not whistleblowers, but trumpet blowers who say, hey, there's a problem here and we need help. Not complainers, but people who are gonna say, hey, this is a problem. So the same thing with our net. We need people going, hey, there's an issue with this net right here, and let's try to mend this.
And my net isn't efficient until I use it to its fullest extent. I mean, I'm not getting out of it what I need to. Yeah, it's like somebody, you ever watch somebody, I wish I had a hammer. I don't have one. If I'd have thought about it. But you ever watch somebody grab a hammer and choke way up on it and try to hammer with it?
Yeah.
And they peck on something. You're like, just choke on down on that thing, and you got mechanical advantage. Yeah, and that's what we're talking about here with our drag net. Like, it's a drag net, and so it's designed that I can use all this area, right? I got all this place that I can encompass with my net, but I've got to use it to its fullest extent. I'm not going to drop it beside the boat and then pick it right back up. You know what I'm going to do when I do that? I'm wasting my time. And sometimes we get ourselves in those ruts, and with our idea of reaching people is that, like, I got this one old boy that I'm working on. You ever have people tell you these stories? Mm-hmm. Like, I got this one guy that I've been working on for 5 years or 10 years or whatever. Well, you know what? You may need to cut bait with that old boy. It may be a time where you're taking your drag net and you got one fish that you're circling on with that drag net.
Yeah, you're saying yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else.
Yeah, and so, when we throw that net out there, we're just after people.
That's right.
It doesn't matter who it is. We just want people. Yeah. And the blessing of it is that, we can't be in the business of judging hearts.
No. It says it gathered some of every kind. All of them. That's one thing I love, is that, like, there are literally people who worship at KW from 4 different continents.
Yeah.
And it's now I'm not saying that there's majorities from 4 different continents, but that's a blessing, and that's what we need in the church. Is we need diversity.
Yes.
And we need unity, but we need people from diverse backgrounds, because the fact of the matter is as well as I do, is that there are different people who can reach different people.
That's right.
And there are also people who gain these friendships and these bonds with other people in the church, and so it just really it just helps the church to grow. And so it says when this thing was full, they drew it to shore.
That's right.
And when the end of time comes, here's the bottom line too, is like, God is so long suffering, He's so patient with us, that, like, we don't know when the end's going to come.
Yeah, we don't know when the net's full.
And Jesus just makes it. We don't get to decide whenever the Lord's going to start pulling that net up to shore.
No, and that's the thing, is that we can't worry about that.
You better be ready, though.
You better be ready. And that's the blessing of it, is that we don't have to worry about, there's just so many things that you can get like, what the crazy thing is like, here's a real easy way to know that you don't need to fool with some kind of religious group. If they can tell you when the end's coming.
Yeah. Jesus said, no one but my Father knows.
Yeah, if they can tell you, the Jehovah's Witnesses did this, like I don't know when it was, 01, I don't know, somebody can look it up and tell us, but, they started at the turn of the century, like 1900, it's going to be on this date, and they're like, all right, we got it off.
And then there's the Y2K guys.
And then what they did was they revised it once that date came to pass, like, we'll just do it again. And then
Watchtower revised.
Yeah, then they went back and were like, All right, well, it happened. We just didn't catch it, right? And you're just like, come on.
There's some people who believe Jesus already come back.
I know. I mean, that's it. That's in the church now.
Ludicrous.
Yeah.
He says when he comes back, he's going to split the sky.
That's exactly right.
Everybody's going to see it.
That's exactly right. It won't be just like, hey, what? Did
And
y'all
there's
catch the
none
news?
of that Left Behind movie stuff that you watch where like somebody on a plane is disappearing or whatever.
Right. You left your clothes behind. None of that.
The trumpet's going to sound. The dead's going to rise.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I know a guy that preaches in Alabama, and he put on his Facebook page this week. He said the Bible, the bumper sticker that says in case of rapture, car will be empty or something like that. Yeah. He said it should read, in case of rapture, Bible will be wrong.
Yeah,
that's the truth, right?
That's true.
Yeah, and so that's the thing is that we can't worry about all the because what we do is we get down to the point that we just want to be able to pick and choose our fishing, right? If I want to go fishing, I use a certain kind of bait. Mm-hmm. But that's not what we're talking about here. I had, when I was a teenager, Virginia in the 40s, the late, post, Depression era, when they started working on all the hydroelectric projects, they started damming up all these little valleys where all these mountain rivers ran into.
Yeah, our county had that.
Yeah. And so I got kinfolks whose house are under the, where Philpott Lake is at. Well, I remember when I was. Is there a statute of limitations on like dynamite fishing? I hope so. So I'm going to tell a dynamite fishing story.
I think so.
Okay.
Just don't say where it was or who you were with.
Okay. I know a guy.
Yeah. One time I heard of a guy
that had a boat that he had he was a mechanic. And he had a little, when trucks used to have square headlights and stuff, mm-hmm. He had taken a piece of styrofoam. All cars are 12 volt, right? So you run anything on them 12 volt.
Right.
So he took his battery that he ran his boat motor off of, and he ran 2 leads out to this headlight that he put on a piece of styrofoam.
To float it around?
And floated around
all
on
the
the water.
fish attracted
so
to them.
It'd be at nighttime. These people that were going up there were striper fishing, and so they needed shad. Well, he would wait until all those little shad would be up there under that light, and he'd just drop an M80 over the side of it. And you see that M80? I heard that you could see that M80. You could see the fuse going out of sight, and then boop, and then whoom.
That's back when they made M80s to be M80s.
Yeah, and it would, and all those.
This is why they got outlawed.
Exactly. Well, all those shad would bubble up to the top. Well, this guy would take a dragnet and he would drop them over in the live well. Well, it would be a half hour.
They'd wake up.
Yeah, some of them wouldn't.
I mean, I've heard they'd wake up.
Yeah, some of them would go back over the side for chum.
Yeah.
But the other ones, they'd wake up and you'd come on back. Well, they weren't discriminating which ones they got. They just wanted every one that they could get because they needed to have these fish to be able to catch with.
Right.
And so, that's what it's going to look like at the end of the age. It's like everyone that got caught in that blast radius of that M80 got the bite.
I know another guy that would go and would do similar things. Mm-hmm. Don't do this, kids. There was something to do with the battery and the leads of either side of it, mm-hmm. making contact, mm-hmm. and electric pulsing those fish. They don't wake up. But that's a guy told me that story. Well, Mr. Prince, he told me that story.
But here's the thing: is that when you look at this parable as a dragnet, what you're seeing here is that the Lord is just after, and I don't know if we'll get into the parable of the feast or whatever.
Not yet, but yeah, that's the same. Yeah,
is that you're just going out and you're trying to catch whatever you can.
That's right.
We can't be discriminate.
That's right, and you're talking about Matthew 22, where he's like, hey, they went out and they invited everybody.
Just come to the feast, man. Just come to the banquet,
and we'll hit on that on another parable. But so hey, they draw this thing up to shore, and they sit down. And they're going to gather good into the vessels, and they're throwing the bad out. And that's the same thing. That's what Jesus says the Lord's going to do. At the end of this age, the angels are going to come forth. They're going to separate. They're going to separate them out.
And that's why it's really, we got to be real careful that we don't get into the heart reading business.
That's right.
We just got to teach the gospel. And we looked at this idea of sowing seeds. Think about what precedes this. All this sowing of the seeds, and that everybody we talked about during the sowing of the seeds, everybody wants to be the number 4 soil. I want to be the one that's going to
be
bear
the fertile soil.
Yeah, I want
30,
to be
60, and 100 fold.
Yeah, I want to be that guy. But what we're seeing here is that you are just throwing the net, right? The Lord is going to be the one that's going to determine who is the one that actually produced fruit.
That's right.
In the end of the days. And
this is something too that I understand that this is talking about the end of judgment, but you've also made some applications on these parables too, on this parable for different things. But you think about it, this is the same way with your personal evangelism. Like when you're doing these things, whatever's good.
What things?
When you're evangelizing, whatever's good, hold on to it.
Yes,
that's what you're talking about. You have to cut bait at some point with somebody, but it's the same thing with your relationships. It's the same thing with whatever. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, and so we may be doing things over and over again, and it's like, hey, sometimes keep the good. Get rid of whatever the bad is.
Yeah, I mean, just because something...
Good ideas, keep them. Bad ideas, get rid of them.
That's exactly right.
Are you keeping it because of tradition?
Yep. And those things that you're keeping were probably good ideas at some point.
That's right.
That doesn't mean that you keep doing them just because they worked at some point.
There might be a different delivery style.
Yeah, and so when we look at this, this dragnet scenario right here, we just, I don't know why we have got into this. You think about this mode that we're into. You and I get along so good because we have similar tastes, similar interests, and everything like that. But I know that there are people that I meet and get to hang around that have opened my eyes to so many new things. I mean, they've exposed me to so much stuff. And what happens is we get locked in with people that look like us, think like us, act like us, whatever like us. Well, that's what that is? That's a real dangerous thing.
Very dangerous.
Getting stuck largemouth fishing all the time.
Yeah.
And what the blessing of this parable is that there is no limit on who gets to come in. There's just no, whoever gets to come in. God's going to, Matthew 25 is when he goes through the, at the end of
the goats.
Yeah, I don't want to be a goat.
Nope.
There you go. And so what you're talking about here is letting God do all the sorting out, because
you just keep gathering.
You keep gathering.
Keep scattering the seed, keep gathering into his barn.
And there's just a blessing that God is the one that's going to weed this stuff out. And we can't make...
The angels have their job to do, and I've got my job to do.
That's right.
The angels are going to be doing all that separating out, and what I need to be doing is making sure that, number one, I'm right, that I'm good whenever the net gets drug in, and then those around me are good whenever the net gets that I'm a keeper and that they're a keeper. Now, certainly, it's by the grace of God, but certainly there are specific things that Jesus talks about that not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but those who do the will of my Father. I want to be someone who's doing the will, that we're saved by grace through faith, that it's that active faith, it's an obedient faith, and so there's grace and obedience to go together. So the angels have their job to do. I have my job to do to make sure that me and my household, we're serving the Lord, and to make sure that we're trying to take as many people with us as we can.
And at the end of the day, the Lord's going to be the one that sorts them out. There's going to be a lot of people that are in the church that are not going to make it. And it's because they've just made the decision that it's not that dragging the net's not that. I had yesterday somebody that's been in the church for probably 20 years come to me and say, when I was baptized, I really never thought much about telling people about Jesus, but these last few weeks and months, like, it's really been on my heart, and I don't know where to start. And I said, it starts right here.
Yeah.
It starts right here.
Today's the day of salvation.
We'll do it together. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to work through this process of, that's when you know people are growing.
Yeah, growth.
That's when you know people are growing and they're reaching their potential, what the Lord designed the church to be doing.
Jesus says you better be growing always. Grow in the grace and knowledge of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. We should always, never being stagnant, always being ready. Well, that net's coming in one day, and I got to be ready.
Yeah. So when you think about this, verse number 50, he says, and cast him into the furnace of fire where there will be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Verse 51, Jesus said, have you understood all these things? They said to him, yes, Lord. Then he said to them, therefore, every scribe instructed concerning the kingdom of heaven is like a householder who brings out his treasures, things new. That's probably another parable.
Another parable. But
he's talking about hail.
Mm-hmm. And so there's a good side of this too. Verse 49, the angels are going to come forth and separate the wicked from among the just. You think about in Revelation that those that are crying, those who have been slain,
the ones standing,
they're crying, how long, Lord? How long will you allow this to happen? You read up in I believe it's Psalm 96 is, how long, Lord, are you going to allow the wicked to shine forth? Well, the Lord is long suffering. He's patient, and he's got that net ready, but it's not full yet. Mm-hmm. And when it's full, Jesus says, hey, he steps out and he says, get the sickle ready.
Yep.
Reap. The harvest is ready. And so wherever you're at today, you may be seeing evil prevail. One day they're going to drag that net up, and the Lord's going to separate the wicked from the just.
There will be a day of your redemption. I mean, there will be a day when all the troubles of this life will go away.
Amen.
And in Matthew 5, when Jesus, they're talking about this, they're having this powwow, Jesus is, with people, and he's saying these things like, you heard of old said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Well, all those things were just about us getting, they thought that was a way that they could get justification for somebody doing wrong to them. Well, God has always says, vengeance is mine, thus says the Lord. Mm-hmm. So those eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth, all that stuff was always supposed to be left up to the lawyers anyways.
It don't belong to me.
It was never about me, like you poke my eye out. Well, doggone it, poke your eye out. That's not what that was about. That was about societal justice was what it was. It wasn't about my vengeance. And when Jesus is having this conversation here, he's saying there's going to be a place. He doesn't even talk about heaven here, but he talks about the place of torment. And he talks about this idea that there will be a place one day when they're going to separate all the bad from the just. And that'll be that day when he drags the net home and we get our place in heaven with him. Those that are prepared. And those that aren't, it's weeping, wailing, and gnashing of the teeth. Hey, I'm glad you guys could join us today. And we I don't know if Ben and Bob will do next week while I'm here, since we got Ben. You'll really like him. He's got the face for video. And so we'll see you guys next time. We appreciate you tuning in with us.
This is the Unscripted Podcast.